Hello, my name is George Smith, and I'm competing in the 11th and 12th grade video production category. I wrote, directed, and edited the short film Boxy for the Georgia TSA Fall Leadership Conference this past November on Jekyll Island in order to compete in their on-site video production competition. The video requirements for the competition were simple. The video had to be between 1 and 10 minutes long and filmed primarily on Jekyll Island where the conference took place. While I was the writer, director, and editor, I had a collection of enthusiastic TSA students and actors to participate in the production. I edited the whole film on Adobe Premiere Pro because I have experience with its mechanics and many of its more complex functions from using it in my film class at school. Everything in the film is entirely original and needs no additional documentation. The film is about a boy and the friend he makes out of an oversized box who enjoy a day of fun on Jekyll Island. When the boy's parents decide the box is just too much and needs to be thrown away, the boy shows an uncanny and unhealthy attachment, but eventually concedes. As the boy disposes of the box, the parents notice that it is far heavier than expected. The boy is outraged, not only at having to get rid of the box, but also at the difficulty he is encountering. The film ends with the shocked parents finding the boy dragging an unresponsive man out of the box, with his hands bound and mouth covered by duct tape. While writing Boxy, my focus was establishing a heartfelt family film spirit among viewers before the crushing twist at the end. I wanted to create an attachment between the viewers and the boy with his box by showing them doing all sorts of things together to relax the viewers before their love is shattered by the climactic conflict at the end. Being that I consider myself a musician and singer-songwriter, I really got into this soundtrack and the emotional impact it would have on the viewer, along with how that worked with what was being shown on screen. I chose an ugly and goofy font for the title screen to open up the simple cheery music that my friend and I recorded from this room with a guitar and her box drum directly into a digital audio workspace, or DAW, that I use called Reaper. Recording the music for the climax was one of the most fun parts of Boxy's post-production. The horrifying orchestra that begins after Boxy crashes out of the wagon was entirely recorded in this room by me with one viola. I opened up my DAW and began with a slow rising note on the highest string of the viola. I sat in front of the computer and tested out different sounds and progressions that I thought would build tension while listening to those I had already recorded, then layered them in one by one, exported this audio track, and placed it into Premiere Pro. The finished music was infinitely better than I ever would have imagined. The quick and deep viola strikes persisting through the music worked so well with the hasty cuts between the boy hitting the box and his parents watching. I used the DAW to meticulously level the different viola recordings. Though you may think that the chaos of the music needs no careful attention, it is because of my careful attention that you understand the sounds to display such animosity. I recorded the final music piece for the ending shot and credits quickly and easily, then popped it over into Premiere Pro without any issue. The music pieces were all recorded while the video was playing on screen in order to properly apply the music dynamics to what is being actively shown and heard. After recording, I leveled the music with the earlier recorded volumes and equalized the audio levels, i.e. bass, mid, treble, and gain. I think the original soundtrack was huge for the film and was a great experience for me as someone interested in audio production in the future. Editing the rest of Boxy was fun, but it took some tedious work and a lot of school time to complete. I'm sure the judges have heard plenty about crossfades, dips to black, and text boxes, all of which I used casually in my film where they were appropriate in shot changes, ending transitions, and the text in the title and credits. However, I have had several eccentric successes in my film, which I feel would better demonstrate the time, effort, creativity, and skill put into it. During some of the conversational shots at the end of the film, I found some issues with the sound. All of the audio tracks for a particular shooting sequence were peaking when their subject spoke. Peaking here means that our sound was amplified too loudly during its recording, and many of the frequencies were lost, resulting in a grainy, ruined sound. For a moment, I thought that they were gone. The deadline was steadily approaching. However, the sound recorded on set had been recorded with multiple microphones at once. I was able to manipulate the microphones that were meant to record other subjects for their sound, then adjust volumes at individual intervals using Premiere Pro's keyframes so that the delivered lines were instead heard through microphones that were pointed at someone else on the set. If I hadn't found this solution to the issue, we might have had to re-record the whole selection of scene and overlay the dialogue with what's called automated dialogue replacement, or ADR. However, the new state of the audio tracks left another issue with sound ambience. Ambience in this case refers to the various background sounds besides the focus subject of the track. As the keyframes were moving the gain of the actors and actresses' voices up and down, the sound of the wind and leaves was moving up and down too. To solve this problem, I took a track of recorded ambience from between other sound recordings for the shoot and pasted it throughout the scene, adjusting the audio as necessary to level out those sounds behind the voices. In doing this, I also used Premiere Pro's Audio Effects panel to create smoother transitions of fading in and out between the pasted ambient sound. The final result of the film's sound was extremely satisfying and successful, as the audio smoothly moves throughout the film, without any more peaking, jumpy ambience, or unusual voice levels. The greatest challenge in editing Boxy was probably also one of my greatest achievements in completing it. You can't tell it in the film, but the final scene in the marsh was filmed on 2 different days. The original plan was to finish production on the evening of the first day, but filming took longer than anticipated, and we had to continue the next morning. This resulted in 2 entirely different color temperatures, brightnesses, and shadows in a scene that was meant to occur in one evening alone. Using Adobe's Lumetri color correction, I was able to alter the colors of every single shot in the final scene to create a consistent and balanced temperature and brightness throughout that integral part of the film, and also emphasize darkness around the shots of the boy and light around his parents. This way, the shots flow nicely together as if they were shot on the same day and time, and the boy is subconsciously indicated as sinister compared to his parents by the light and dark. I also applied more of Premiere Pro's features in removing a notable Nike logo on the boy's shoes during the climax. In my school's film program, we do our best to keep our films eligible for all sorts of competitions, and many require the absence of any corporate logos or possible copyright or trademark infringement. I used a masked video layer with feathered edges that I set to track the movement of the actor's shoe. In this masked layer, I added camera blur to cover the logo without notably blocking or altering the shoe's color. I then looked through the whole shot, frame by frame, and adjusted any jumpy parts of the mask edges that stretched too far off the target area. The feathered edges, movement tracking, and precise revision I did afterward allowed for the blur to cover the logo effectively and discreetly in the final cut. All in all, the film has been a huge success. Boxy won first place in the TSA on-site film category at the Fall Leadership Conference. Later, it won another film festival locally in a school film competition. I'll always remember the lessons I've learned from producing Boxy when making more films in the future. Since the Regional Tech Fair, I've made several revisions to my film. Having done a good deal of editing since Boxy's release, I first went through the entire film readjusting shot transitions and sequencing. With the help of my film teacher, I was able to have a review and note-taking session with a filmmaker from my area, Matt Chastain. He and another filmmaker from nearby, Michael Cruz, both reviewed Boxy and gave excellent critical feedback. Mr. Chastain noted that a couple scene transitions had been confusing without establishing shots, and the climax contained consecutive parts where the actress was standing in 2 different places. To fix the first of the problems, I added newly created establishing shots to both of the scenes that needed it. Then, using a shot from our set photographer, I added a B-roll cut between the mismatched actress positions and other B-roll throughout the film, including a crow and some dune grass so that the birds chasing the boat wouldn't seem out of place. Mr. Cruz noticed that one shot during the final scene had a slight color variation, despite my earlier fixes, so I went back in and corrected it too with the same Adobe Lumetri color system as before. It was said that the final shot of the film, which reveals what's in the box, was a bit slow and could benefit from some cuts inside of it to continue to build the tension. I didn't have any videos that I had not already used, so I had to make do. Using a shot of the boy that was already in the film, I adjusted the scale and position to make it appear as an entirely different shot. I also used the latter end of a video which I had cut short in the first editing, so that the subjects were properly arranged without any repeating footage. There was one part of the film where the father's voice was not quite as loud as it had been before and was after. I brought up the gain of that audio track and had no further issues. Despite all of the shots of Jekyll that I managed to work around, one scene from our area needed to be entirely redone. A window in the background had created unbalanced lighting in frame, resulting in a darkly backlit subject and awkward reversals. We brought the actor back into the studio, set up a false wall, hung a couple pictures in a mirror, adjusted the lighting, took 4 takes, and called it a day. The crayon Foley recorded for the first attempt worked well over the new video, and the timing fell gracefully into place. Though Boxy entirely accomplished its purpose at Jekyll by winning first place, it has received a new calling from the State Tech Fair. I am confident in the revisions I've made and glad to have gotten to revisit the film in order to improve its quality more. My name is George Smith, writer, director, and editor of the short film Boxy. Thank you so much for your time and consideration.